Today, you're going to learn the number one goal your MVP app must have in order to be successful in the long term. Putting laser focus on this single goal can feel really hard for most app founders, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But the strategy I'm going to teach you today will help shift your mindset when it comes to your MVP app so you can build traction faster than you otherwise would and do so much more efficiently. I'm Kristen Youngs, co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, where we help CEOs and founders build custom software to start or scale their businesses. Let's dive right in. Chances are you're building an app that you plan to build a business around. Either that, or you already have a business and your app will help supplement and grow that business. Now, if you're like most app founders, that's your goal for your MVP app, to help start or grow your business. And right alongside that goal, you have lots of ideas for how you'll get there. You have cool features in mind, you want a really sleek design for your app, and there are tons of bells and whistles you envision it having. You might have even spent time planning out what the landing page will look like, what the logo will be, and more. There's a good chance you've already tried to plan out every aspect of your full scope app, or if you haven't, you're in the process of doing so. And your reasoning behind it is sound. You're building an MVP app so you can start or grow a business. Why wouldn't you plan out every detail and try to think of every possible what-if situation that might come up down the road? The thing is, while the long-term goal of your MVP app might be to help start or grow your business, that's not what the immediate goal of your app should be. I want to talk for a minute about how we plan new or improved products here at Coaching No Code Apps because it ties into this concept really well. When we were first starting out in business, we were constantly thinking of new ideas for products or services we could offer. We'd have a cool idea for something and then start creating it because we thought it would help people in our market beyond the scope of what we were currently doing. Now, some of the things we created did really well, and some of them didn't. Throughout all our trial and error, though, we learned two very important things. The first is the idea you have for the product you're creating must solve a key problem for your market. See, 99% of the time we brainstormed about how to improve or create a product or service, it was because we were being told directly by our market that they needed a solution to a specific problem. For example, when people were struggling to understand how to use APIs in their apps, we created a video series based directly on the questions they were asking. When people were having a hard time creating their MVPs strategically and specifically for business purposes, we created a program where we personally helped guide them through the process step by step. This program was brought to life specifically because of all the requests and questions we got over time. But with that being said, there were a few ideas we had that we didn't come up with based on direct questions from our market. Instead, we came up with them because we thought they would be helpful for people. For example, one year we came up with a New Year's challenge where we created lots of worksheets and put together a full program on how to help people jumpstart their apps. Now, the idea behind it did solve a problem we saw people having, which was that they were having trouble getting started with their apps. But in reality, nobody was asking us for the type of solution we had come up with in that specific situation. And I'm putting the word solution in air quotes because it was a solution for us. That was actually the first time we created a product that wasn't based directly on feedback from our subscribers, customers, and clients. And it was also the first time we experienced a huge flop when it came to selling a product. The lesson learned was clear. We had thought of this new idea for a product without first identifying the root problem people were experiencing. We had pinpointed a vague problem that we thought we were providing a solution for, but we didn't dig deep enough. Sure, people were having trouble getting started with their apps, but why? If we'd have dug deeper and pinpointed the root of this, then we might have been able to come up with a real solution, and not just something we thought was a cool idea. With that in mind, let's move on to another key focus here. Your personal long-term goals cannot be the immediate goals of the product you're creating. Here's what I mean. That New Year challenge I mentioned was launched as an end-of-the-year sale. And while any new product or service we launch is always created to help people move forward with their own goals, this particular sale was one we hoped would also move the needle a bit more for us as well. Now, In full transparency, we're of course running a business, and just like you have a goal of growing your app as a business, we're continually growing our own business as well. When we were creating that product, however, we let outside factors influence us more than we should have. Primarily, we were participating in a business challenge of our own that was prompting us to run a sale at the end of the year. And to reach our own goals, we thought of a cool idea, put time into creating it, and then offered it to our market. Now, this is common business practice, and there's a chance you've picked up on what seem like normal business practices when building an MVP app too. But there's also a good chance some of them aren't ones you should be following. Remember, your own personal long-term goals should not be the immediate goals for any product you're creating. Yes, they're fine as long-term goals. You're building an app to help start or grow a business. You want to serve a lot of people and in the process, create or maintain financial stability for yourself or your family. At the end of the day, your long-term goals will influence the way you build your app, but they should not be the main focus of your MVP, which is your minimum viable product. It's an initial version of your app that will help you test and grow, which leads us to the number one goal of your MVP. The absolute number one thing you need to focus on with your MVP app is getting feedback. Now, as we personally grew and continue to grow here at Coaching No Code Apps, we've completely changed the way we create or improve services and products. The biggest change has been the fact that we no longer create new products until we've gotten feedback. Instead, we identify single specific problems we see many people experiencing, and then we come up with a solution to that problem based on ways we've personally solved it before. We then take that solution to our market. And keep in mind, at this stage, it's still an idea with no actual product created. And we gauge whether people want to use this solution for themselves. Now, gauging this can happen in a number of different ways. We might get pre-signups for a product, or we might have people opt in to get a free mini version of the full solution we've thought of, for example. But if we do not get that positive feedback in whatever form we're looking for, we will not move forward with actually creating that product or service. On the other hand, if we do receive positive feedback, we'll then create a basic version of the product, run beta tests or case studies on it, and then improve it based on the feedback we get during that stage. And we'll continue in that cycle of getting feedback and iterating for the lifetime of a product or service. So at the start of this video, I mentioned there's a single goal your MVP needs to focus on, but there are really two goals. One of the goals relates to you personally, and the other relates to your future customers and users. Your biggest goal with your MVP should always be to get feedback. It should start by getting feedback for the idea you have, and then it should move on to getting feedback for the basic product you've created. And you should continue with that cycle forever, because in truth, your app will never be perfect. There will always be room for improvement. On the flip side, the number one goal for your customer or market should be to solve a key problem they're experiencing. Remember that your long-term goals for your full scope app are of course important, but they're not the goals of your MVP app. The goals for your MVP app are to solve a key problem and gather feedback to see how well you're solving that problem. And that's it. If you execute those two things well, you'll be on track to reaching your long-term goals. But remember that those long-term goals will not be reached without purposefully building your MVP for these two goals first. All right, I hope that helped you learn a helpful new strategy for your app. With the key points we went over, you should be able to rethink how you're approaching your MVP and focus your plan on solving a problem first, then gathering feedback. Your long-term goals will be the end result of following this cycle. If you learned something new today, go ahead and click the subscribe button right below this video so you can stay updated on every new video released. And if you want to take this way further, head to coachingnocodeapps.com and sign up for our extended training series. It's completely free. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.